Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make modern techno rumble kicks. We're going to be talking about the super, hard-hitting, groovy, sort of like rolling kicks like you hear in a lot of the new 1605 releases, sort of like Umex, Space 92, myself included. And not just that label, a lot of labels are using this style of kick, but it's a very popular kick right now, and there's really not that many tutorials on how to make it. So today I'm going to be showing you some new secrets that I picked up on how to make it. Along with this video, I've also just dropped a new sample pack, which is called 20 Ultimate Grooving Rolling Rumble Kicks Volume 3. What this is it's a collection of 20 really hard-hitting, super fat sounding kicks in the style that I've created. You can see with each one, you get the full loop of the kick, as well as all these individual layers. And there's even bass and rumble layers as well. So what this is you get a great library of kicks to work from. You can mix and match them. They're all key and BPM labeled, so you can easily go and, take like the bass from one, and then the kick from another, and then like the top layer from another, and really make your own kicks out of this. And I wanted to just create a great library for you guys to work from, so you can really have like a solid foundation to stand on. So then when you go to make these style of tracks, you don't have to spend so much time worrying about like perfect kick distortion, right? Because now you just have this really solid library of kicks, and you can go and make your own tracks. I've also included these 2 free bonus Ableton racks as well that'll help you make these kicks. You can put these on any kick sample, and it'll make it sound super hard. Just like these kicks, I'll play some of them for you now. So you can hear these are all super solid. The link is right at the top of the description. This really helps support me. If you guys enjoyed these videos, I don't make a whole lot off of YouTube or YouTube ads alone. But with the sample packs, I'm able to keep going and keep bringing you guys new videos every day. Plus, like I said, I think this is like a really solid library, and there isn't really a product like this on the market, But these are the style of kicks that are really popular right now, so you can get a head start on the competition. The link is at the top of the description. Thanks so much for the support, guys, and let's dive in. So, this is a kick that I made in the style right in front of me, and I'm going to be using this to break this down for you guys today. So, the first thing here is you'll notice there's 4 layers going on. We have our main kick, our click layer, which is adding that top, like, the rumble, and then this rolling bass. And so, the first thing I want to talk about here is just going to be like this dynamic between the main kick and the click. So the way we're doing this is we're using the same sample. That's the first thing that you're going to want to make sure of, is that all of these, even the rumble, obviously the rolling bass is going to be made with a synth, but the rumble, the click, the main kick, these are all being made with the same kick sample. And this is just going to make sure that these are going to line up really nicely, at least for this stage. Like I said, once you have these made, you can go and mix and match them. But when you're just setting it up, you want to have just like the same kick so that it's going to be super simple and super clean between the different layers. You're not going to have any phasing issues or anything like that. But yeah, so you're going to have this main kick, which is going to have a lot of punch to it. But you can hear when we add that, like, on top, it just adds something that you really don't get, and that you can't try to get out of one layer. And that's really an important thing here, and this is something like in layering across music production in general, but it's really like, not trying to get too much out of one layer, right? Like, this main kick is really good for the big thumpy at the start of the kick, and for having that, like, a bit of the punch, but it's really best in the low end. So we're going to do a little bit to get some mid-range and top end out of that to make it a bit punchier and kind of make it our own as well. But we're not going to focus on trying to get like super, super bright highs out of this, because it's like, this kick is just really good for the low end. And we'd rather preserve that low end than, say, like, drop too much distortion on this to try to get that click out of it and then ultimately mess up the low end. So it's better to have like this layer and then this layer than to try to get those out of one layer. And another reason for this is actually going to be inside of this rack here. So if you'll notice on the click layer, so this is the Techno click kick punch rack. It's the same one that's in the sample pack I just showed you. But essentially what's happening here, so with the high layer, we're taking the mids and highs, and then we're distorting those with the pedal. And then there's a little bit of reverb there. And you can hear in the whole kick And it gives you that nice like kind of like airy thing in the kick, right? If I turn the reverb off, you can see the kick doesn't quite have that same like life to it. And so when you have this layer that's just in the high end, it's going to allow you to do so much more there and to add little things like that. You know, you could even maybe play with like a little bit of delay if you wanted to, or like chorus, like almost anything, but just something to kind of give it a little bit of a different space there. And obviously you wouldn't be able to put that on this main kick layer because you wouldn't want any reverb whatsoever on this. You can see I even converted that one to mono. And yeah, and then you can see after the reverb, we just have an EQ8 cutting the lows. Just because sometimes that distortion can add a little bit. And then I even have another utility converting this to mono, but we're still getting like a little bit of reverb on it. But obviously, usually you want your kick to be in mono. And then I just have one more high pass there just to make sure. And then I'll show you the main kick processing too. So this is being done with some multi-band distortion that's being blended in here. So you can see what's happening is we have these two chains here. So we have a completely dry chain. So that's just the kick coming right out of the sampler. And then this is essentially the punch on top. So we're treating this more as a layer. Like this distortion here is more of a layer rather than like, you know, treating it like, okay, like we're just going to drop distortion on the whole thing. And then you get that, right? Which obviously, like you can hear, that sounds good in the mids and highs. It actually kind of gives you a nice punch, but it messes up the low end too much. So that's why we want to treat this as a layer. It's more like you want to blend in a very controlled distortion layer rather than just drop distortion on it, even though it is technically like a distorted kick. And the way we're doing this here is you can see, so it's essentially this audio effect rack. This is my Techno main kick rack that comes with the pack as well. So it's just these two chains. One's on the highs. And then one's on the mids. So you can see, yeah, we're just distorting the mids a bit. And then we're distorting the highs a bit. And then this high pass here is on both of them, just because if I turn that off, you'll notice. You see, like when we turn it off and then on again, it tends to just kind of like have a little bit of low end there when you distort these, so I like to just clean that up. And yeah, then we can use the knobs on this rack to kind of control this. But you can see that this is just a very controlled, like clean distortion. Like we're taking every step of the way to just make sure that it's going to be very tight. You know, it's just blended in with that already really good kick. And that's the other thing. This is only going to work if you have like really solid samples coming into it, right? Like you need to start with what would already be a really good kick. And then this is going to make that sound even better rather than like trying to make a bad kick sound good. And then I just have that being converted to mono. So those are the main two layers. And I usually start with those and then move down and make the rumble. So then after you have those, you're going to make the rumble. And the rumble is going to be pretty straightforward. It's kind of like taking the very standard techno rumble method and just kind of flipping it on its head a little bit. And the idea here is that we're going to have a rumble, and we're also going to have this rolling bass. But they're going to blend together. You can hear, like, when I solo those together, you hear each individual one, and it's very clear that it's two different basses. And that's what you need. You don't want these to be confused at all. You don't want any mess between these. These need to be super clean, or else it's not going to work. So the way that we're making the rumble here is it's the same kick that you saw for the main kick and the click. And then we're doing 16th notes. And you can see that there's actually a bit of nuance there because I'm changing the velocities of each 16th note. It's kind of like da-da-da. Like it gets louder in the middle and then down. And so it's a subtle detail, but I think that's really going to make a big difference in terms of like the overall kick. Because if I turn those all up, you see now the rumble's a little bit too overbearing. And also, just again, it's a lot more interesting and dynamic if you have like a little bit of velocity movement there, rather than just having like straight 16th notes. And then what's happening here is we're taking that and then we're putting it through reverb, which you'll notice there's a few tricks here with the reverb that we're doing. So the first thing is that it's not 100% wet. Typically, you would think for a rumble that you want it to be 100% wet. But honestly, like, since we're low passing this, like, there's enough low end coming from the kick that even if you wanted that to just be, nice voice crack there, even if you wanted that to just be the rumble, like, that's already kind of a rumble, right? So this reverb is really just for texture. And what we're doing, the next trick here, is it's a pretty short size. And the size is going to essentially allow you to kind of like shape the reverb sound. And I'll show you what I mean. Like, see how I move that? It just morphs and becomes like very different reverbs and very different rumbles. That's why you want to play with the size and just really nail that down. The other thing here is going to be the reflect and the diffuse knobs. If I turn those down to the default, then back up again. See how the reverb is just a lot fatter when you turn those up? So that's something that I've learned from making these rumbles that can really help. And then we just have a utility, converting it to mono. I have a low pass filter, cutting out the high frequencies, of course, because you want this to just be the rumble. And that's also going to help blend this with the rolling bass, because we're going to cut the frequencies that the rolling bass is kind of specializing in. And then it's being sidechained. And then this last thing here is I'm actually cutting at 38 hertz, which might seem a bit crazy, especially for a bass. But the reason for this is that we can't hear, like, we physically cannot hear anything lower than 20 hertz. Human hearing is just cannot hear below that range, so we don't really need anything lower than that. And really between like 20 to 50, I'll say like 20 to 40, you're not really hearing much. But if you cut this, it makes your bass a lot more airy, and it's also going to cut out a little bit more headroom so that you can master your track even louder and make it even fatter, because there's not going to be all those low frequencies that you're not even hearing but would be taking up space. You can see, like, with it and without it, it's not a huge difference. But yeah, and then the last layer here is going to be the rolling bass. And so this is made with wavetable. It's 2 layers. Now I'll show you first here in the notes. It's just, you know, one note. Of course, we're in the key of E. And then what's happening is we have these 2 wavetable patches. So the first one is like this. And this is just like some nice, like a nice fat square wave with some sync and some pulse width. Going into a low pass filter, I've got an envelope on that. It's also on the oscillator sync. And I'll turn off all the effects too, so you can kind of hear this, and we'll just kind of go down the line with the effects. There's also some unison on there. So that's the first layer, and then we're layering that with this, which is just this malice wavetable going through a low pass filter. A little bit of an envelope on that. Got some on the oscillator positions as well. And then I have some unison. So it's those 2 layers creating this one, like, which I guess I could have done that in one wavetable, but I wanted to use the 2 different unison settings. So it's like a very fat bass. And then we're putting that through a phaser, which has no LFO. So the phaser is just adding a little bit of texture to the sound. Then we have this delay. And you're going to want to make sure you use the filter delay. Like, we're filtering it, so it's really just like the highs and mids. And then what's happening is that's going into this low pass filter, which is cutting on some high end, but really you'll notice it has this LFO doing 8th notes. So now we're getting a lot of different movements here, right? Because we have the filter frequency envelope, we have this going down, 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 we have the delay, and that's really what's going to make the sound. You need a lot of different things moving, essentially. So, like, I would say no less than 3. So, like, in this case, we have filter frequency envelope, delay, low pass filter. Like, anything like that just is adding motion to your sound. Because now, you can hear it's kind of all coming together. And then, like, if we turn off the delay, see, it's a lot more boring now. So these things are all just going to come together to make the sound. Then we have a limiter. Just to kind of pull it up a little bit. I have a compressor side chaining this to the main kick, and then finally just a high pass filter. And then on the group, we just have another EQ cutting out that low end that I was talking about in the beginning, and then another limiter. And this might seem like something you wouldn't really want to do. It's just a little bit. Here's without it. And with it. And something you'll notice, this is kind of like mastering, right? Because without it, look right here where my cursor is. See, we're not clipping. So we're not using the limiter to solve clipping. That's not the point of this. The limiter here is just like a kind of glue where we can just turn this up a little and you'll see. So again, without it, and then with it, it's just kind of pulling all the layers closer together and making them all feel more like one just really fat, full sounding cake. And obviously, yeah, if we turn this like way up, we're going to start to mess up the dynamics. But right here, 2.3 is just fine, and it's going to add that extra little 5% that, you know, if you do 5% here, 5% here, 5% here, all of a sudden you have 100%, right? So this is going to make a big difference in the overall track. And yeah, so that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the new sample pack 20 Ultimate Grooving Rolling Rumble Cakes Volume 3. The link is right at the top of the description. Again, you get 20 awesome cakes with individual layers of each cake, plus the bonus cake rack, so you can drop these on almost any cake and turn it into a super fat, hard-hitting techno cake like this. Once again, thank you so much for the support, guys. I don't make a whole lot just off of YouTube. With the sample packs, it keeps me going and keeps me bringing you guys new content every single day that isn't out there, and we can all keep getting better production together. Thank you so much, everybody, for the support, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.